All right, good morning, everyone. This is Mike coming back at you with yet another video on Intro to Algebra. In the previous video, we talked about dividing and multiplying real numbers, specifically fractions, and just did a little bit of a review of some basic properties of division and multiplication. In this video, we're going to talk about the properties of real numbers that we sort of secretly use anytime we do mathematics. But these are key and fundamental basic properties of real numbers that we use and that we work with. So if you think back to the last couple videos or so, we said that the order in which we add two or more numbers doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in which order we list those numbers. When you add them up, you're still going to get the same sum. Same thing with taking the product of two numbers, or even more. The order in which you list the numbers doesn't matter. When you multiply them, you're still going to get the same quantity. And there's a special name for this property. It's called the commutative property. So for any two real numbers, x and y, x plus y is equal to y plus x, and x times y is equal to y times x. It really works for 3 numbers, 4 numbers, 5 numbers, any number of numbers whatsoever. As long as you're adding them all or multiplying them all, it doesn't matter which order you list those terms in. It's still going to give you the same product or sum. Next property, if we're going to add or multiply 3 or more numbers, we may choose to group 2 of those numbers and have that sum or product be done first before we take care of the rest of the quantity that we have. Well, when we're adding or multiplying, it doesn't matter in which way we group those numbers. And when we don't care about in which way we group those numbers, the name for this property is called the associative property. So for any real numbers x, y, and z, x plus the quantity y plus z is equal to the quantity x plus y and then plus z. Similarly for multiplication, x times the quantity y times z is equal to the quantity x times y and then times z. And again, this works with 4, 5, 6, or even higher numbers of numbers. When it comes to adding or multiplying, we have a special number for each case so that when we add any real number by this certain special guy, it doesn't change what we have. And then for multiplication, we can multiply any number by a certain special guy such that it doesn't change what we have. And this property that there is some certain number that whether we add or multiply, it doesn't change the real number that we started with, is called the identity property. So for any real number a, if we add 0 onto a, we're going to get a, and that is commutative as well. So 0 plus a is also equal to a. And for multiplying, if we multiply a by 1, that also gets us a. And 1 times a is equal to a. We call 0 the additive identity, and we call 1 the multiplicative identity. Now this is nothing really new that we're seeing here. We all know that a plus 0 is equal to a, and a times 1 is equal to a. We're just adding this sort of special name to it, this sort of special title, if you will, to it. Also, we can take any real number and add or multiply, in most cases, some other number to it so that we get the additive identity or we get the multiplicative identity, obviously based on which operation we are doing. And when we have this property that we can take just about any real number and add or multiply something to it to get the additive or multiplicative identity, this property is called the inverse property. So if I have the real number a and I add minus a onto it, that is going to get me to 0, which is our additive identity. And that is commutative as well, as you can see here. And then if I take a real number a and I multiply it by 1 over a, then that's going to give me 1, which is my multiplicative identity. The only one number we can't have is a being equal to 0. We can't have 1 over 0. We said anything divided by 0 is not good. But a times 1 over a, or 1 over a times a, is always going to give me 1. And we have names for these things here, this minus a and this 1 over a. We call minus a the additive inverse of a, and we call 1 over a the multiplicative inverse, also known as the reciprocal of a. We saw the additive inverse a couple videos back, and in the previous video we talked about the reciprocal of a fraction, but we can generalize that to any real number whatsoever, so long as it's not 0. And the last property that I want to talk about in this video, and perhaps one of the most heavily used, is if we want to multiply a number into each number in a difference or sum, we can do that. And this property that lets us do that is called the distributive property. So for any real numbers a, b, and c, if I take the product of a and the sum of b and c, that's the same thing as taking this value a and multiplying it into each of the two numbers or terms or whatever in this sum. So a times the quantity b plus c is equal to a times b plus a times c. And this is commutative as well. B plus c times a is equal to b times a plus c times a. And because multiplication is commutative, we know that we can switch the places of these terms and have that be the same thing there. Well, that doesn't just work with adding, it works with a difference as well. So if I'm going to take a and multiply it by the difference of b and c, I can do the same thing there. The a just gets multiplied into each of the two numbers there. So guys, that concludes our video on the properties of real numbers. Again, these are very basic yet very important properties that we use anytime we do math. If you have any questions or comments, please be sure to reach out to me, guys. Send me an email, give me a phone call, stop into my office, whatever you have to do. Otherwise, until the next video, take it easy, guys.